Hello and welcome to the Rabbit Hedgehog channel. And today got kind of some news that of course was released yesterday. If you're watching this on the 14th of October, when I plan to have it uploaded. But anyway, released on October 13th, we have learned that Indian Motorcycle and Polaris are going to go their separate way. For the majority stake, there's still going to be a partial stake that Polaris will have in Indian Motorcycle. That will be still there, but for the most part, they're selling their majority stake in it. Probably by January of 2026 is what the plan is, per their paperwork and all that good stuff. So I just wanted to discuss that kind of from a perspective of being an employee of an Indian dealership, and also from the past and experiences that I've had in certain circumstances as well. But at any rate, before we get there, let's shout out to our sponsors, AGVSportUSA, for providing the gear that keeps us nice and safe as we ride. Also, Doug Crawford, USA Synthetics, and the AMS oil distribution product that he has. We appreciate him for all he does, keeping our engines safe and wearing well. And also, Law Tigers of Oklahoma, out there right now being a part of the community, supporting us, and will support us with any questions or anything in the courtroom in the event that we have a problem. So at any rate, I'm not even going to go into all the corporate jargon or post pictures of letters or speculative things or comments or anything like that. Let's be real, there's plenty of them out there. Because the problem is when somebody does something on the internet these days, it's stank, and the flies have to comment, and it's always negative. There's never anybody good that's out there that's talking about anything good. They just want to get their voice heard and talk about the negative and the bad and everything that they can do. And let me be real, back when I was younger, I worked at a place called Sears in 2004 through 2005 to 6, and we all know what happened at that time frame is basically they were bought out and they were then merged in with Kmart, and we know the story now. Almost everything is closed down. Almost everything is now bankrupt and off and dead and gone. So I have PTSD when it comes to leveraged buyouts by private equity firms. But here's the thing, not all are bad. And that's the thing that people forget. There are some of these private equity firms that are absolutely atrocious, that absolutely go through and gut companies of what is good and destroys them and makes them meaningless. That is no joke. But that's not the majority of them. That's a few well-known cases, and that's what everybody knows and remembers and talks about. There are over 12,000 of these firms within the United States, probably even more than that, to be honest. And the real deal is we used to call them venture capitalists. They were people who put money into corporations to help give them the capital and the ability to grow beyond where they were. And that's what they used to be called, but now they have a different name over time, of course. So we got to think about, let's think about Dell Computer, for instance. Dell Computer was taken from a public corporation to privacy by Michael Dell, and that way he could retool it, reorganize it, and that was done through private equity as well. And you know what? Dell Computer is still with us. In fact, they've come back stronger and better than they ever were. Same with Hilton Hotels and Resorts. They were falling apart, going the way of the dodo. They were taken by private equity and privacy, built back and came back better after their IPO and stronger than ever. And there's a bunch of other companies that you could say that has happened with it. So there's not all negativity. So the thing is, as somebody who works on this side, I had no idea. None of us did. To be honest, none of us heard anything. There wasn't even a rumor that Indian was on the table to be sold. Not a big deal by any means to me. Because let's be real, corporate is corporate, and you're always going to have to deal with what they say goes. But we all hear about it yesterday, and it does stun us. But the thing is, take away all the corporate jargon and all the other things, and take away all the naysayers, take away all the things that's like, well, clearly in that letter it says that they want to focus on their profitable assets like the ORV and the marine and all that. So that means Indian wasn't making them a profit. Absolutely wrong. Indian made 7% of their profit. It wasn't a big profit, but it was a profit. The thing is we are the small end of Polaris, and we have to essentially take what we can get. Sometimes that engineering is downstream from other products. Let's look at Ride Command, for instance. Ride Command was designed for their side-by-sides, not the motorcycle side, but Indian still got Ride Command because it downstreamed. That's not a big deal. That's what corporations do. If they got something good that can be passed along to everything that they've got, they'll do it. That's not a big deal. But there's other things where they kind of kept Indian motorcycle a little bit separate too. You can't take your Indian to a Polaris dealer for work. You have to take your Indian to an Indian dealer for work. You can't bring your Polaris to an Indian dealer, and so on and so forth. We've always been kind of separate anyway. So the idea was for Indian to be a little bit more standalone than the rest of the Polaris products, because an Indian dealership didn't have to carry a Razor or any of those other products, their ORVs and their marine products or anything like that. They could opt out and be just an Indian dealership and so forth. So to be real, Indian's always been kind of standalone anyway. So we're fighting a giant corporation that's trying to get all these products out there. You know, they have research and development, they have engineering, they have all this other stuff for their bread and butter products, because let's be real, Polaris since the 1950s has been around in the market of off-road vehicles, from snow sleds to ATVs to, well, just about anything you can think of that can go off-road. And of course they add the marine business, so they start boats and boat motors and all that good stuff. They start in with Indian and motorcycles, Victory and motorcycles, and Slingshot and Autocar. So they're a big company. They also have defense contracts. They also have other things. They've been around for a long time. So indeed, their bread and butter for the better part of their lifespan was off-road vehicles and other products of that nature. And that's why I'm not faulting him by any means, because the thing is, they put their heart and soul into Indian. Let's be real, this company was bought in 2011, or the name was bought in 2011 by Polaris. Since then, they have produced 6 different platforms, starting with the original Thunderstroke platform that came out in 2014, the Scout platform in 15, then you jump to the FTR platform in 2019, then you jump over to the Power Plus or Pursuit platform, or Challenger, in 2020. Then you jump over to the new Chief platform in 22, and then you jump over to the new Scout platform in 25. So multiple different platforms, 6 different platforms in basically 10 years of Polaris engineered motorcycles coming out. Because from 2011 up to 2013, they were building the Kings Mountain motorcycles instead. So different engineering group at that time, and now you have them adding in Indian and stuff like that. And of course, the other thing is too, you got to think about how long it took Victory to become profitable over Indian. And it became profitable very quickly whenever they were brought online versus Victory. And that's why Polaris put everything into Indian, so that way they can continue to roll out those new platforms and build this brand, because this brand actually had a fighting chance. Victory just kind of stayed level. It didn't really make the biggest inroads into the market as was anticipated. They weren't seen as equal to Harley. Harley was always the dominant force and would always be the dominant force. Then Indian came along, and now there's something that was seen as peer or better than Harley by the majority of people. And that started changing the way things were looked at. And that's why Indian got to live on. Now, in that time frame, with all that R&D, you got to think about all those other parts of the corporation needing that money. And if they want to push their boundaries in those departments, then they've got to do something. And the thing is, if Indian wants to push its boundaries and do better too, they also have to do something. They can't be just the tail end of the balance sheet anymore. They have to grow beyond where they are. And the thing is, that is where somebody like a venture capitalist or a private equity firm comes into play. Because if it is done right, like the aforementioned Dell and Hilton resorts, if it is done absolutely correctly, the company will grow and be profitable and do well and actually take care of its people and its customers for a long time to come. So if the idea is to build this brand as a standalone brand, then you will see a change in how things are done, simply in that they want to draw in more people and do more things. That means the R&D budget will increase to allow for more platforms, more engines, more engineering and things. Oh, by the way, not even the 6 platforms, there's 5 engines. The Thunderstroke engine, the Power Plus engine, the FTR engine, the Scout engine, and the new Speed Plus Scout engine. 5 engines in that time frame with those 6 platforms. That's a lot of money to build a motorcycle brand and to get to where it is in that little time, because it hasn't been that much time. So what they are doing is opening up capital and money for Indian Motorcycle to grow. For the most part, we are retaining everybody who is currently working for the Indian Motorcycle side, in terms of like the engineering departments and everything like that. The factory goes to the new company. The engine manufacturing plant in Minnesota goes to the new company. The design studio goes to the new company. Everything that we already have in place comes with us. And then they're going to take an industry man, not the pizza guy or the shoe dude. No, they're taking a man who was with Harley, who was with Vance and Hines, who was with Rumble On, and has been in the industry for 30 years. Mike Kennedy is being put in as CEO. To me, that tells me that they mean business, that they mean to build this company up and give us the budget to do so. And then as time goes on, after all the new engineering and all the things comes out for other models and everything, and Indian starts turning more profit and they come through a little bit stronger, then you will see this company go as a public company, very similar to Harley Davidson. So then the venture capitalist or the private equity firm will then make their investment back and therefore no longer be a part of the company. That's how those transitions are supposed to work, and that's how things are supposed to be. And that's what I kind of see happening. I don't see Indian Motorcycle going anywhere for a long time to come, because they've done too good of a job chipping away at Harley's dominance. It may not seem like it, but you got to remember, when Harley started with Indian back in 2014, you know, they were well over 50% of the market of big heavy cruisers. They've lost that. They're under 50%. We have the mid-size market with the Scout absolutely trouncing everything in the US. So the point is there's a whole lot of growth potential for Indian still, because we still got that heavyweight market to come in, or to continue to chip away at, but we've got the midweight. So this is not something that we're doing to just put Indian out to pasture. I've seen so many people with those comments about victory. This reminds me of my victory and what they did to me then and all this. That's not the case here. That's not the plan. I mean, when Harley was bought out by AMF, could you imagine what the forums and the Facebooks and the Reddits and all the things would have said at that time when the bowling shoe company bought the motor company? Could you imagine the outcry versus what we get today? You know, it would have been a whole lot worse if they had all that technology for Harley. They wouldn't have survived through that whole process, period. Because of how negative and how awful people are to one another and of change. To be real, if it wasn't for AMF, we wouldn't have Harley Davidson today. I mean, even toward the end of the AMF years, Harley Davidson was still struggling and bleeding and out and everything of that nature. Just cash and assets that they were able to be leveraged out by a management team. Not venture capitalists per se, but that's basically what it was. It was a private equity firm of the management of Harley Davidson that bought them back and saved their life. Indian is not in peril and wasn't in peril when this started. And that's the big thing. We would have known. There would have been many signs of Indian suffering and in peril before any of this. This is something different. This is something to build a legacy. That's how I view it. Not trying to be biased by any means, but I'm just trying to see it for what it is. A company that could grow more if it wasn't fighting for all the assets of another. It doesn't have to worry about it anymore. It can fly free. And when Polaris bought this, I honestly think that that was the plan all along. Is to build it to a point of profitability that it can sell and stand on its own. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about this whole news and situation. And you guys can have a discussion in the comments below. I might even join in on a few of them as well. And that way we can be a little bit more civil about it. But that's the thing. We're still going to be here. We're still going to be riding. I mean, I've had 37 motorcycles in my life. I mean, I'm not going to go back to anything else. I've ridden so many motorcycles, and to be real, the Indians just fit me better. They work better. The people that are usually handling them at the dealerships and everything like that have always been better. I've never had a bad time at any of the Indian dealerships, you know, and it's just, to me, a better place to be. I've had so many different brands and so many different motorcycles in the past, and I can tell you whose service departments are good, whose are bad. I worked for one of them, and I can tell you they're awful. That's just it, man. It's just one of those things of, it's too early to be this negative. It's too early to be shaming things. It's too early to know. I get that there are so many things out there that have gone bad, and it makes a high-profile news story. But the thing is the news never reports on what is good. The news only reports on what is going to get them ratings, which is always the negative. So take that to heart as we go through this chapter in Indian's life of change. Because that's what we got to do. Sometimes we just got to roll with the punches. So at any rate, this is the Rabid Hedgehog, and just kind of a little bit of a ride vlog today because of all the stuff and all the negativity, and I just wanted to address a little bit more of it from my perspective. At any rate, keep that shiny side up, folks, and we'll catch you on the next ride.